Hello all my Kenvians, welcome, happy Saturday, and good morning to you, at least from my time zone right now. Just wanted to let you know before I start this video that I have reopened the entries for the PapaKenn Media now over 1,000 subscriber giveaway, and I've also thrown in addition to the math and the art and the JerkyXP, I'm also going to be giving away a $25 Steam gift card. So yeah, just so you know, I'm going to be linking to the new video right here, and then in the description down below, and in that video it'll tell you everything you need to do, and make sure you check out the description as well. But alright, let's get started on the episode. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 101 of Discovering Doctor Who. Let's get right into this. We're going to be talking today about the two-parter Under the Lake and Before the Flood. And these two episodes, before I even really get started, I am going to say, in comparison to the opening two-parter of this series, it didn't quite match up quality-wise, at least in my opinion. But that does not mean necessarily that I did not enjoy them. But before I give my overall thoughts, obviously, let's get into my favorite parts of this, I keep saying this episode, of these two episodes, starting with the crew. The crew, everyone on the crew was interesting, and I just found them enjoyable in their own ways, except for the, I actually forget his name, I kind of blocked it out. I was going to write it down, but then I decided not to, but the guy that was in charge of the whole dig and everything. He really got on my nerves. I didn't actually enjoy him until he became a ghost. Everything else he did besides that just annoyed me to no end. He's one of those characters that is like in a movie, or whether it's a horror movie or whatever, where people are going to die, you're just kind of like, I really hope that person dies soon. And luckily he's like the second person to die in the two episodes, so it worked out pretty well in my favor. But yeah, other than that, just the entire crew, including the captain, or basically the guy that's in charge at first before he becomes a ghost, I really liked him as well. Everyone had very distinct personalities, and even if they're just, one-off characters, which I have no doubt that they are, or maybe two-off since it was a two-episode deal, but whatever. I really liked all of them, and probably actually my favorite would have to be O'Donnell, the obvious fangirl of the Doctor. There was something about the way that character was portrayed that I just absolutely fell in love with. I really, really liked her, which will actually come into play a little bit later when I talk about some other things related to these two episodes. But moving on from there, my second favorite part of these two episodes, specifically the first, would be the flashcards. I don't even remember what the Doctor said at first to prompt him pulling out the flashcards, but obviously Clara wrote these down for him to reference when he says something a bit insensitive, or something that's not exactly with the social norms of people in general. But just when he pulls out the flashcards and starts going through them, it's such a hilarious moment. I really, really like that a lot, and it plays in so well with this incarnation of the Doctor's personality. I don't know. I just absolutely loved that. It's as simple as that, really. Moving on, my third favorite part of these two episodes were the ghosts. And not only the realization of the Doctor that, oh my god, these are actually ghosts, but just how they were utilized overall. There are a few kind of questionable aspects about them that bothered me just the slightest bit, but not too much. Sort of how they were able to, go through objects, they can go through walls and doors and this and that, and yet they are able to, pick up solid objects made of steel. So I don't know, I don't know, maybe with the ghosts they're able to turn, the handling of steel on and off or something? I don't know exactly, but, that being beside the point, just the ghosts in general were really cool, and the fact that they were beacons of sorts I found really interesting. And what they were actually chanting over and over, like the first time we hear it actually said, given to the Doctor, I was thinking, oh well, maybe they're actually saying something else, but it just kind of sounds like that. But no, I was entirely wrong on that part. Had I done a reaction video, you might have noticed that. But yeah, I just found, I don't know, just the entire way they were utilized. And then at the end of the first episode, where we see the ghost Doctor, it was just really, it was really cool. I liked it a lot. And, you know, overall, the ghosts in both of these episodes, they added a really interesting and nice element of horror to both of these episodes. Like, nothing, you know, super scary exactly, but just this nice, subtle, dark, at times dark humor, and just this darkness that you don't know exactly what's going to happen, because the ghosts never broke character, I guess you would say. It's like they were always one consistent way, and like in a lot of movies, sometimes they'll have the ghosts break character or whatever. They'll, you know, all of a sudden like have a conscience of sorts and they'll leave someone alone, which it kind of seems that way with one character until we find out that the reason the ghosts didn't take him was because he didn't see the instructions that got implanted into his memories. But yeah, just, yeah, the ghosts just added up to a really good horror element that worked well for both of these episodes, and it wasn't overdone, in my opinion. But okay, moving on from there, my fourth and final favorite part of these two episodes, more specifically the second episode, was the idea of the bootstrap paradox. And I say the idea of it because I found it interesting the way they sort of laid it out, especially with its mention at the beginning of the episode, the very beginning, and then the end of the episode as well. Now I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit more in detail coming up, so that's all I'm going to say about it for the time being. So yeah, now that's admittedly for a two-parter episode, very few favorites. The reason for that is probably because I just sort of took everyone in the crew and put them into one category. And, you know, the Doctor as usual was great. I really liked Clara as well, but for the most part, I just, like, those were my favorite parts exclusive to this episode, or these episodes, I suppose. So yeah, but moving on from there, it's time to talk about some of my annoyances, and I'd say at least one of them was pretty significant. But we'll, you know, obviously that will be up to your own interpretation. But let's get started with my first annoyance, which was the Fisher King. Now, the design of the Fisher King, the idea of the Fisher King, I actually liked. I thought it was really well done, really intimidating, just like, especially the body was really well designed. I enjoyed that aspect. But then there's so much about the character and how it's done throughout both of these episodes that just felt weak in a way. Call it poorly written if you want, I suppose, but there was just something that felt off. Probably the most significant thing that is stuck in my mind, and I can't sort of, you know, get off my mind, is the fact that, one, the Fisher King was apparently dead. Like, stayed completely still, undetectable. I don't know if they actually checked him or whatever, but, you know, he's being taken, he's assumed dead and being taken to a burial site. And then either he comes back to life, or was never really dead. I don't know how you can act like you're not really dead without someone finding out, especially if you're not in the capsule that he was in. I don't know. But, and then at the end where we find out that the Doctor, you know, is the one that blows up the dam and, you know, that drowns the Fisher King. No, let's say on one hand the Fisher King has the ability to come back to life. How come he didn't come back to life after that? I don't know, it's just, it seems like there's a bit of a plot hole there, and I could have missed something. Like, there could be some aspect of it that I just completely missed. Maybe the Fisher King said something as to him actually faking his own death. I don't know, but just watching the episodes it feels to me like there's a plot hole. If I missed something, definitely let me know. It just felt off to me. But alright, moving on from there, my second annoyance with these 2 episodes was O'Donnell's ghost. And this plays back to, on one hand, O'Donnell being probably my favorite character of the entire crew, but it goes way beyond that, mostly being, technically, O'Donnell is the Fisher King's second victim. So, how come O'Donnell's ghost wasn't with, I don't even remember his name, but the other alien? Why weren't there 2 ghosts at the beginning of the first episode instead of just the one? O'Donnell's ghost doesn't appear until after she actually dies in the second episode. So, yeah, just something about that just feels off to me, especially when it comes to the idea of the bootstrap paradox, which I'm going to touch on in just a second, but just the way that time is supposedly flowing throughout both of these episodes, that feels off. Again, especially if O'Donnell was supposed to be the second victim, like chronologically speaking, and yet in the actual timeline of the episodes, the ghost isn't, like, her ghost doesn't show up until, what is it, like 4th? Maybe 5th? I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that just, it feels off, and it's hard to explain. But I'll try to explain a little bit more in my third annoyance with these 2 episodes, again, specifically the second episode, which is the execution of the bootstrap paradox. And for a few reasons. One, this isn't really a new idea as far as Doctor Who goes. I mean, especially the new Doctor Who. Like, we've gotten episodes and even just scenes where, you know, the bootstrap paradox has obviously come into play. And yet I find it kind of strange that they're just now taking the time to sort of explain that idea. Like, it seems to me like a lot of, well, and it's not even necessarily just Moffat, because he didn't write these two episodes, although he is the head writer. But yeah, it just seems like a lot of the overarching plots of Doctor Who, since he took over, have sort of relied on the bootstrap paradox to a degree. I don't know, maybe I'm just talking out of my tuchus or whatever, but yeah, I found the execution of it to be a bit off, and especially with O'Donnell's ghost coming into play, because, again, like I said before, she was technically the second ghost, or the second person killed by the Fisher King, and yet her ghost doesn't show up till much later in the order of the ghosts appearing. And then the Doctor at the end of the episode references the bootstrap paradox, or by saying, you know, who made Beethoven's Fifth, which, you know, Clara, I can only assume, wouldn't get that reference, but we as the audience do, since he mentioned that at the beginning of the episode. And yeah, something about it felt off. Again, I liked the idea of the bootstrap paradox. I just feel like its utilization was a bit questionable at best. But at the same time, I feel like the paradox itself would be difficult to execute overall well in theory. So yeah, I don't know exactly, but those are my overall annoyances. 3 annoyances with these 2 episodes. Now, if you have any of your own favorite parts, your own annoyances, please do let me know in the comments down below. And if you have any clarifications for, you know, either some of my favorites or annoyances, you know, I'll also definitely mention those, because some of them, like, they're annoyances to me, but maybe I just heard wrong or I missed something. It's definitely always possible. But okay, moving on from there, it's time for my question of the episode. And yes, I do only have one. And I actually made sort of a last-minute change as far as this goes, because of basically some information that I remembered at the last second. My original question was going to be, were these episodes just sort of a standalone story, or is there something bigger to it that I missed? Now, again, that's like, I'm not using that as my question of the episode, but rather, after realizing something, not that I had missed, but I'd forgotten about, the actual question of these 2 episodes is the Minister of War. Because O'Donnell mentions that specifically, because when they go back in time for the second episode, she mentions Saxon, the Minister of War, and I think at least one or two other things. And the Doctor himself was like, the Minister of War? Never mind, I'll find out about it eventually, I'm sure. So, my question is, like the Minister of War, when is this going to come into play? Is this going to be something for this series, or is it going to be something that's planned for the future, like in the 10th series or whatever? I'm really interested to see who the Minister of War is and how that might come into play. So yeah. Now moving on from there, obviously, once again, to repeat, the track of the episode is being discontinued until whenever. But if you do know some of the tracks for this episode and you do have a favorite, please do leave them in the comments down below. But time for my quotes of the episodes. Yes, again, I picked one quote from each episode, and both these episodes, again, although I found them overall a bit weaker than the opening two-parter, they had some really good quotable lines, especially when it comes to humor. Now, my first quote should come as no surprise given what one of my favorites was, but the first one comes from the Doctor reading off of one of his flashcards, and it is this: "I'm very sorry for your loss. I'll do all I can to solve the death of your friend / family member / pet." Just the way Capaldi executes that line, like I think he had more of a pause between the slashes, and it's just done so absolutely well. I really did love that line. But again, there are other lines that were great from Under the Lake. Was it called Under the Lake? I'm having yes, Under the Lake. Bit of a brain fart there. But yeah, just if you have any others, definitely do let me know. But it's time for me to move on to my second quote of the episodes, which comes from the very beginning of Before the Flood. And it should come as, this one should come as no surprise either. But as far as text on the screen goes, I'm just going to say the Doctor's monologue, essentially. But I am going to read the whole thing here, so please do bear with me, and I will try and edit out any errors I may make. "So there's this man. He has a time machine. Up and down history he goes, zip, 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 getting into scrapes. Another thing he has is a passion for the works of Ludwig von Beethoven. And one day he thinks, what's the point of having a time machine if you don't get to meet your heroes? So off he goes to 18th century Germany, but he can't find Beethoven anywhere. No one's heard of him. Not even his family have any idea who the time traveler is talking about. Beethoven literally doesn't exist. This didn't happen, by the way. I've met Beethoven. Nice chap. Very intense. Loved an arm wrestle. No, this is called the bootstrap paradox. Google it." Which I actually did. "The time traveler panics. He can't bear the thought of a world without the music of Beethoven. Luckily, he brought all of his Beethoven sheet music for Ludwig to sign. So he copies out all of the concertos and the symphonies, and he gets them published. He becomes Beethoven, and history continues with barely a feather ruffled. But my question is this: who put those notes and phrases together? Who really composed Beethoven's Fifth?" Dun 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 dun! So yes, that's my favorite quote, very long quote, of both of these episodes. It's just so well done. Hi, Midna. I don't know if she showed up in camera or not. Say hi to everyone. It's time for you. You haven't made a cameo in such a long time. Say hi to everyone, Midna. Let me out, please. But anyway, yeah, again, those were my favorite quotes from these two episodes. If you have any of your own, please do let me know in the comments down below. Especially the Doctor's opening monologue from Before the Flood, I really, really enjoyed. Although, obviously, I had some issues with the execution of the bootstrap paradox. But moving on from there, before I get into my overall thoughts, I do have a theory regarding this episode. And it has to do especially with Clara's, the way Clara is acting at the beginning of Under the Lake. And it has to do with her, sudden, huge desire for adventure. Now, obviously in previous episodes, she's been all about going on adventures. She's really wanted to get out there, see new things. But in this one, she seemed particularly enthusiastic, I guess you might say. More so, seemingly, than before. And my thought about that is this, my theory is that her huge desire for adventure right now is actually her running away from something, much like the Doctor ran away from something. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know, but there are a lot of different things she could be running from. She could have reached a point in her relationship with the Doctor where, you know, she's just really all about the time traveling, going to see new things. She wants to be out there. Or maybe she's running away from her past. She's running away from the loss of Danny back in the previous series. She's running away from her old life. She wants to be, you know, just constantly seeing new things so she doesn't have time to think about all of that. That's just a theory, obviously. I have no idea whether that's even remotely accurate, but, you know, I guess I'll see or find out since this is going to be Clara's last series. When that's actually going to happen, I don't know, but we'll find out. But alright, so that's my theory. As for my overall thoughts on these 2 episodes, I honestly really did like them. I found them enjoyable, I liked the little horror elements, and just something about it felt, especially with the ending of the first episode, like there was just something so Twilight Zone-y about both of these episodes. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Now, obviously, like I said, I didn't find them as strong as the opening 2-parter, which I've mentioned several times at this point. But it was still really well done. It was something that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I will definitely be going back to check those out. Maybe see if there's any details that I missed out on that could have led to some of my annoyances, or might even change some of my favorites a little bit. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, in addition to everything else I've mentioned here, please do let me know your thoughts on these 2 episodes, whether you really liked them, or you didn't, or maybe you actually enjoyed these 2 episodes more so than the opening 2-parter. I'm really looking forward to seeing your all's thoughts. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it right now. I'm so ready to get into the next 2 episodes, which I've already watched with Jill, which are The Girl Who Died and The Woman Who Lived. Oh my god. So looking forward to talking about those 2 episodes. And then after that, you can look forward to, I don't know if it'll be full reaction videos, probably not, but basically, you know, reactions to some degree of the 2-parter that comes thereafter. We shall see what happens. But alright everyone, thank you very much for joining me for the 101st episode of Discovering Doctor Who. Let's get into this, let's get moving on to the next episode. And oh, and as I mentioned before at the very beginning of this episode, please be sure to check out the video I posted yesterday. You know, not too long, a bit short, but it'll have all the details you need to know for upcoming changes with PapaKenn Media, as well as the reopening of entries for the giveaways. So there you go. Alright everyone, I'm PapaKenn, and until next time, Alonzi!